Money can buy mansions, not hearts. When a billionaire forces his daughter to choose a new mother, he learns that love doesn't follow his rules. If you believe family is built on love, not blood, watch till the end and subscribe for more emotional stories. The Harrington name had once meant power. Now it was a brand etched on skyscrapers, whispered in magazines, stamped on luxury real estate deals that turned city blocks into gold. But for Elijah Harrington, it meant something colder: control. His 12-year-old daughter Zara sat across from him at a dining table so long it looked like it was built for kings, not people. The morning light struck her skin, a deep, glowing brown that mirrored her late mother's, and she kept her eyes on the silver spoon in her oatmeal, pretending the world outside the window wasn't made of money. "Zara," Elijah said, voice firm but polished, "today's important. You'll meet 3 women. Strong women. Each could be a good mother for you." She didn't look up. "I already had one." Elijah inhaled slowly, setting down his coffee cup. "Baby, it's been 2 years. You need a woman's guidance again. Someone to help you grow into what you want me to be," she murmured. Before he could answer, the butler entered. "Sir, the guests have arrived." 3 women stepped into the room like contestants in a silent pageant. Each carried a certain gleam that came from knowing the price of everything and perhaps the value of nothing. First, Maya Trent, a celebrity life coach with 500,000 followers and a perfume deal. Her white suit hugged her like ambition itself. Second, Vanessa Coleman, a philanthropist from D.C., every pearl on her neck a whisper of influence. Third, Dr. Simone Price, a renowned child psychologist who'd published 2 best-selling books about grief resilience in high-achieving youth. All of them smiled too wide. None of them looked at Zara long enough to see the walls behind her eyes. In the corner stood Nia Brooks, a housekeeper. Late 30s, deep-skinned beauty that didn't need makeup, hair wrapped in a patterned scarf, eyes steady. She'd been with the family since before Zara was born. Once, she had been the late Danielle Harrington's best friend, before grief turned the house into a museum of memories no one dared dust. Nia held a tray of fresh orange juice, trying to disappear. But she couldn't, not when the child she helped raise was twisting her spoon like a secret she couldn't swallow. Elijah clasped his hands. "Zara, sweetheart, you'll spend a few minutes with each lady. Talk, ask questions. Then," he forced a smile, "you'll choose." Her voice came quiet, razor-sharp. "You want me to audition for love?" A chill slid through the marble hall. The guests chuckled politely, unsure if they were allowed to laugh. Elijah's jaw flexed. "It's just a conversation, Zara." She rose from her seat. "Then let's talk." An hour later, the mansion felt like a waiting room for fate. Maya tried charm. "I can teach you confidence, sweetie. Imagine walking red carpets with me." Vanessa tried empathy. "We'll travel the world, help orphans together." Simone tried intellect. "Grief is like a storm, you just need structure to get through it." Zara nodded to each, polite but distant. When they asked what she missed most about her mother, she said softly, the way she laughed when the power went out. None of them knew what to do with that. From the hallway, Nia watched. She shouldn't have, but she couldn't help it. When Zara's eyes finally met hers, something unspoken passed between them: memory, comfort, truth. Moments later, Elijah returned, his smile a mask of control. "So, sweetheart, do you have a choice?" The women straightened, confident. Zara stood. Her small fingers trembled as she pointed across the room. "I choose Nia." The silence was instant. You could hear the clock tick. One of the guests blinked in disbelief, another laughed nervously. Elijah's voice hardened. "Zara, she's not part of this. She's the only one who remembers Mom's bedtime stories," Zara said. "And she knows I hate milk in my cereal. She's the only one who doesn't pretend." Nia's throat tightened. "Baby." Zara turned to her father. "You said I could choose. I choose her." For a moment Elijah looked less like a billionaire and more like a man cornered by his own pride. "Nia works for us," he said carefully. "She can't be your mother." Then maybe money can't buy everything, Zara whispered. Her words landed like thunder. The women shifted, gathering their purses. One muttered, "What a circus." Elijah raised a hand, but they were already gone. When the door finally closed, the house was too quiet. Zara's eyes filled, but she didn't cry. She simply walked toward the stairs. Nia placed the tray down and followed. "Zara, wait." The girl stopped halfway up, her voice small. "If she's not family, then who is?" That night the mansion glowed like a diamond, bright, empty, and cold. Elijah sat alone in his study, staring at a photo of Danielle. In it, her smile looked alive enough to burn. He whispered, "I was trying to do right." From the hallway came laughter, soft, hesitant, real. He stood, drawn to it. In the kitchen, he found Zara sitting on the counter, stirring batter while Nia hummed an old gospel tune. The smell of vanilla filled the air. "What are you two doing?" he asked. "Making Mom's cake," Zara said. "It's her birthday." Elijah swallowed hard. He had forgotten the date. Nia looked up. She wanted to celebrate, not mourn. He stepped closer, watching as Zara poured the batter, her hands steady now. For the first time in years, the house smelled like life. Elijah whispered, "Maybe I chose wrong today." Nia met his eyes. "Maybe you just forgot love doesn't need interviews." When the cake came out of the oven, a single candle flickered in the dim light. Zara smiled. "She'd like this." Elijah nodded. "She would." They stood together, father, daughter, and the woman who'd quietly carried them both. Outside, the wind stirred the city skyline, but inside, something small and sacred had begun to heal. Morning sunlight filtered through the Harrington estate's tall windows, painting gold across the marble floors. The world outside looked perfect, but inside, the walls hummed with whispers. Zara sat at the breakfast table, still in her pajama set, swinging her legs. Across from her, Elijah scrolled through his phone, silent. His face was pale. The headlines had already hit. Billionaire's daughter chooses housekeeper as new mom. It wasn't news, it was wildfire. Every media outlet had its own spin. Some framed it as heartwarming, others as bizarre, but most treated it like a punchline. On social media, strangers debated their lives like a spectacle. Maybe she's just attached. Rich man gone soft. Classic Cinderella stunt. Nia entered quietly, setting a plate of pancakes on the table. Her calm presence filled the room like warmth after a storm. But Elijah's expression didn't soften. He slid his phone across the table toward her. "They're calling you a manipulator." Nia glanced at the screen, eyes steady. "And what do you believe?" He hesitated. "I don't know what to believe anymore." Zara looked up from her plate. "I do. She loves me." That single line silenced both adults. Nia gave a faint, sad smile. "Eat your breakfast, baby." By mid-afternoon, the estate's driveway looked like a newsfeed come to life. Sleek cars rolled in, one after another, publicists, assistants, PR managers, even Elijah's lawyer. They filled the grand foyer like vultures in designer suits. His sister Victoria Harrington arrived last. Every step she took echoed with authority and judgment. Dressed in a navy pantsuit and diamond earrings that could blind, she hugged her brother briefly before turning to Nia. "So, you're the reason we're trending." Nia folded her hands. "Ma'am, I didn't ask for this." "No," Victoria said coolly. "But you certainly didn't stop it." Elijah stepped between them. "Enough." "Enough," she snapped. "Elijah, you're on the front page of every business journal in America. Your board's in panic mode. Your daughter's choice just tanked our reputation." "Our," he repeated. "It's my life, Vic." "My daughter's." "Your brand," she corrected. "And she's 12. She doesn't understand the weight of that brand yet." "You do." Zara entered quietly, holding her teddy bear. "I understand enough," she said. "And I don't care about brands." Victoria turned, eyes narrowing. Sweetheart, you think you don't care now, but one day you'll realize. I already realized something, Zara interrupted. Money makes people pretend. Nia doesn't. That cut deeper than any argument could. Victoria blinked, lips tightening. You've spoiled her with emotion, she said sharply to Nia. Children need structure, not sympathy. Nia's voice stayed calm. Children need truth. Structure comes after. Later that evening, when the guests had finally left, Elijah stood in the dark study, glass of whiskey untouched beside him. Nia entered quietly. Did they fire you yet? Zara had asked earlier. The question echoed in his mind. Nia stopped near the doorway. I can leave, if it'll make things easier. He turned. Easier for who? For you. For your business. For the people who think they own your life. Elijah set the glass down. You think I care what they say? You always cared, she said softly. You built a life on what they say. Her tone wasn't cruel, just true. He sank into the leather chair. I was just trying to rebuild. Give her something solid again. You can't rebuild love on PR strategy, Nia replied. It cracks every time someone looks too close. He rubbed his temples. You think I don't know that? Then stop acting like you don't. The silence stretched until it wasn't silence anymore, it was something alive between them. Years of gratitude, pain, unspoken things neither dared name. Nia finally exhaled. I'll stay until things calm down. After that, we'll figure out what's best for Zara. Elijah looked up. What if what's best is you? Nia froze, heart stuttering. Don't say that if you don't mean it. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, he said. But maybe she saw something I didn't. Her voice trembled now. And what's that? That family doesn't need to be hired. The next morning brought another storm, literal and figurative. Rain hammered the city, and the Harrington mansion was surrounded by reporters at the gate. Elijah's PR advisor, a slick man named Julian, handed him a stack of notes. We need a public statement. Soften the optics. Say Nia's part of a transitional caregiving plan. Elijah frowned. She's not a plan. Julian pressed. Then at least say she's a temporary guardian figure, makes it sound professional. Nia stood nearby, arms crossed. Professional, huh? Like raising a child is a temp job? Julian ignored her. We'll schedule a controlled photo op, just you and Zara. No housekeeper. Zara, standing by the doorway, clenched her fists. She has a name. Julian forced a smile. Of course she does, sweetheart. Zara stormed off. Elijah tossed the papers onto the desk. We're done here. Julian blinked. Sir. I said we're done. As Julian left in a flurry of frustration, Elijah turned to Nia. You see? This is what I'd become. Managing my daughter like a headline. Nia stepped closer. Then stop managing. Start listening. That night, Zara couldn't sleep. She crept downstairs, finding Nia sitting by the kitchen window, a cup of tea in her hand. Rain tapped the glass softly. Are they mad at you? Zara asked. Nia smiled sadly. A few people, maybe. Because of me? Nia shook her head. Because of love. People don't understand it when it doesn't fit their picture. Zara crawled into her lap, small hands curling into Nia's shirt. You won't leave, right? Nia looked out the window. The rain blurred the city lights into something softer, kinder. Not unless you tell me to. Then never, Zara whispered. And just like that, the storm outside didn't seem so loud anymore. Meanwhile, in a penthouse across town, Victoria Harrington stood before a wall of glowing screens, her reflection split by the headlines. She dialed a number. It's time we remind my brother what family reputation costs, she said coldly. Dig into the housekeeper's past. Every job, every address. I want leverage. Her assistant hesitated. And if there's nothing to find? Victoria smiled faintly. Then we'll create something. Back at the mansion, Elijah sat awake in the dark, listening to the sound of Zara's laughter drifting from the kitchen, soft, safe, alive. It was the first night the house had felt like home again. And the last before the world would try to take that away. The rain stopped by morning, but peace didn't follow. By noon, Elijah's assistant burst into his office, pale and breathless. "Sir, there's something you need to see." On the screen, a new headline flashed across every major outlet. Who is Nia Brooks? The secret past of the billionaire's housekeeper turned mother figure. Below it, photos of Nia appeared, some from 10 years ago, some clearly stolen from social media. A younger version of her, smiling in a diner uniform, holding a toddler not her own, leaving a small apartment building in Georgia. The captions twisted the truth into scandal. She has a pattern, the article claimed. Every family she works for, she gets too close. Too personal. Too powerful. Elijah's stomach tightened. Who leaked this? His assistant hesitated. Someone close to your sister's office. He closed his eyes. Victoria. Nia stood at the stove when he entered the kitchen. Her hands moved with mechanical grace, stirring soup that she'd forgotten to season. She didn't need to see the screen, she'd already heard. Her phone hadn't stopped vibrating since dawn. "They're saying I manipulate people," she said softly. "That I make myself indispensable." Elijah approached carefully. "It's not true." Her laugh came hollow. "Doesn't matter. Truth doesn't sell clicks." Zara peeked from the doorway. "What's happening?" Elijah forced a calm smile. "Nothing you need to worry about." Nia shook her head. "Don't lie to her. She can feel it." Zara walked closer, small hands trembling. "Did I do something wrong?" "No, baby," Nia whispered, kneeling. "You just love someone the world doesn't understand." Across town, Victoria's office buzzed like a beehive. Her assistant entered with a tablet. The article's blowing up, over 2 million views in 6 hours. Victoria stared at the screen, unreadable. And the backlash? Mixed. Some call it racism, some call it class betrayal. But your brother's company stock dipped 3%. Good, she said flatly. Maybe now he'll remember what family means. Her assistant frowned. And if he finds out it was you? Victoria turned sharply. He already knows. He just hasn't decided how to deal with it. That evening, Elijah confronted her. He didn't call first. He didn't knock. Her penthouse door swung open, and there he was, wet from the rain, eyes burning. "You leaked it," he said. Victoria didn't deny it. "I protected our legacy." "You destroyed a woman's life." "She destroyed it herself when she forgot her place." He stepped closer, voice low. "You don't get to decide her place." Victoria's composure cracked. "You think this is about her?" "This is about Zara. About our name." "That child is being raised by someone who doesn't belong in this world, Elijah." He stared at her like she was a stranger. "Then maybe this world is the problem." He left without another word. Back home, Nia was in the laundry room, folding clothes that didn't need folding. Her eyes were red, but her movements calm. Marcus, the longtime driver and quiet friend of the family, leaned against the doorframe. "You gonna let them paint you like that?" he asked. She shook her head. "They already have." "Then paint back." Nia looked up. "With what?" "I don't have their money, they're lawyers." Marcus smiled faintly. "You got something stronger, truth. And that girl upstairs who'd fight a whole army for you." Later that night, Elijah found Nia sitting on the staircase, exhaustion weighing her down. He sat beside her, not touching her, but close enough for warmth. "I talked to Victoria," he said. I know, she replied quietly. She's not the first to look at me like I don't belong. He studied her profile, the strength in her stillness. I can fix this. No, Elijah, she said. You can't buy silence this time. You can't PR love. Zara's soft footsteps echoed down the hall. She held her teddy bear tight. They're mean, Daddy, she said. The kids at school said Miss Nia's a liar. Elijah's heart broke. What did you tell them? Zara's voice wavered. That liars don't make birthday cake for people they didn't give birth to. Nia covered her mouth, tears threatening. Elijah pulled his daughter into his arms. You did good, baby. The next morning, the story took another turn. A talk show host invited anonymous insiders to discuss the Harrington scandal. They spoke in half-truths, hinting that Nia had ulterior motives, that she used her position to gain influence over Elijah and his daughter. In one clip, an older woman from Georgia, a former employer, appeared on screen. She meant well, the woman said. But she blurred lines. She made herself too needed. Elijah watched the broadcast from his office, fists clenched. When it ended, he called his lawyer. File a defamation suit. Against who, sir? The lawyer asked. They used anonymous sources. Then we'll find them. He hung up and stared out the window at the skyline he owned but couldn't control. For the first time, wealth felt useless inside. Nia kept cooking, cleaning, and tucking Zara in like always. But she could feel the shift, the servants' sidelong glances, the way the security team spoke in whispers. Even Marcus grew quieter. When she stepped into her small room that night, a white envelope waited on the dresser. Her name printed neatly across the front. Inside, a check with 6 zeros. And a typed note. For your silence. Leave before you destroy him. No signature. No mercy. Nia tore it in half. Then she tore it again. The next morning, Elijah woke to find her suitcase by the front door. He froze. What are you doing? Protecting you, she said. They'll never stop if I stay. He stepped forward. You think walking away will fix this? It'll take the target off your back. What about Zara? Nia's eyes shined with tears she refused to shed. She's stronger than you think. You both are. He shook his head. No. You're not walking out of her life. Or mine. Elijah. No. His voice cracked. You're the only real thing in this house. If I lose that, I lose everything. Before she could answer, a small voice came from the stairs. Miss Nia? Zara stood there, clutching her bear, eyes wide. You said you'd never leave. Nia knelt down, tears spilling at last. I didn't mean to. I just. Then don't, Zara whispered. Please don't. Elijah looked at Nia, his voice trembling. Stay. Not as an employee. As family. For the first time, she couldn't speak. She just nodded, silent but certain. That evening, Victoria's assistant entered her office nervously. Ma'am, the article's backfiring. What do you mean? People are siding with her. Calling her inspirational. Saying she's the only real mother figure that girl has. Victoria's smile faltered. And, ma'am, there's a video. She turned sharply. What video? The assistant showed the screen a clip from a passerby's phone. Zara standing at the gates, shouting at reporters, leave her alone. She's my mom. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. Hearts. Support. Victoria's hand trembled slightly as she turned off the screen. Back at the mansion, Nia tucked Zara into bed, brushing her curls back gently. Why do people hate what they don't understand? Zara asked sleepily. Nia smiled through her tears. Because they've never been loved enough to see it. Zara yawned. You'll still be here tomorrow? Every tomorrow, baby. Outside, the sky glowed faintly pink with dawn. The storm hadn't ended, but its thunder no longer scared them. Because inside those walls, love had finally learned how to fight back. The sound of cameras clicking filled the courthouse steps. Reporters lined both sides, shouting questions that echoed through the crisp morning air. "Miss Brooks, are you manipulating the Harrington family? Mr. Harrington, are you in a relationship with your housekeeper? Is this about love or control?" Elijah's jaw stayed tight as he led Nia through the chaos, his hand barely brushing her arm. Zara walked between them, clutching a small stuffed bear under her coat, her mother's last gift before she passed. Inside, the courtroom buzzed. The walls were lined with journalists, the air thick with judgment. At the front sat Judge Harper, an older black woman known for her no-nonsense reputation. Her gaze cut through pretense like a knife. "This hearing," she began, "concerns allegations of misconduct, defamation, and the welfare of minor child Zara Harrington. Let's proceed." Across the aisle sat Victoria, immaculate as ever, her lawyer flipping through color-coded binders. She didn't look at Elijah, not once. But her eyes darted toward Nia, sharp and cold. The first witness took the stand, a former employee from one of Nia's old jobs. "She got close to every family she worked for," the woman said nervously. Like she wanted to fill some empty space that wasn't hers. Victoria's lawyer smiled. "And would you say she blurred professional boundaries?" Yes. I would." Nia sat still, hands folded in her lap. She didn't flinch. Elijah's knuckles whitened against the table. Then came a journalist who'd written the viral article. "We only reported verified facts," he said smugly. "The public has a right to know who influences billion-dollar families." "Did you verify those facts?" Elijah's lawyer asked. A pause. "Well, the pattern spoke for itself." "So, that's a no?" The journalist squirmed. "We relied on sources." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Anonymous sources?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Interesting," she said dryly. "Continue." When it was Nia's turn to testify, the courtroom fell silent. Her lawyer asked gently, "Miss Brooks, did you ever exploit this family for gain?" Nia looked straight at the judge. "No, ma'am. I took this job to care for a little girl who'd lost her mother. I stayed because love doesn't stop when paychecks do." The lawyer nodded. "And how do you respond to accusations that you blurred boundaries?" "I didn't blur anything," Nia said. "I filled gaps no one else wanted to see." Victoria's lawyer stood, circling her like a predator. "Miss Brooks, you've worked for 6 families in 15 years, all of them wealthy. Each time, you formed emotional attachments. Doesn't that seem like a pattern?" Nia held her ground. "It seems like love. Maybe that's a pattern this world needs more of." A few people in the gallery murmured their agreement. The lawyer pressed on. "You lived in this mansion rent-free, correct?" "I earned my stay. With work, patience, and care." "And yet," he said, pacing, "you allowed a child to call you mom. Isn't that manipulative?" Nia's voice didn't shake. "No. That was her choice. And I'll never apologize for being there when she needed someone to call." The judge turned toward Zara, who sat beside Elijah, fidgeting nervously. "Sweetheart," Judge Harper said kindly, "you don't have to speak if you don't want to." Zara looked up, brave despite her trembling. "I want to." She stood on the small stool they'd brought for her so she could reach the microphone. Her voice was clear, steady. "When my mom died, everybody told me to be strong. But nobody told me how. They just said, 'Don't cry.' Then Nia came. She didn't tell me to stop crying. She just sat with me. She made pancakes when I couldn't sleep. She made me laugh again." She looked at her aunt. "You call that manipulation? I call that love." A hush fell over the room. Even the stenographer paused for a moment. Zara continued softly, "If love's wrong, then I don't want to be right." Elijah blinked hard, fighting emotion. Nia turned away, a tear slipping down her cheek. During a recess, Victoria approached Elijah in the hallway. "You've lost control," she hissed. "You're letting your emotions ruin everything." He faced her squarely. "You've confused control with love for so long, you don't know the difference anymore. You're throwing away our legacy for a maid." He stepped closer. "No, I'm saving it. From people who think love is beneath them." She flinched but recovered fast. "You'll regret this." Elijah's reply was quiet but final. "I already regret letting you near my family." When court resumed, Judge Harper leaned forward. "I've heard enough." The room went still. "I've seen money buy a lot of things," she said. "But I've never seen it buy authenticity. What I see here is a woman who gave her heart where others only gave their opinions. The court finds no evidence of manipulation or misconduct." A beat passed. "And as for the question of guardianship," she glanced at Zara, then Nia, then Elijah. "This court does not decide love. But it will not punish it either." Case dismissed. The gavel struck once. Final. Unmistakable. Outside, reporters swarmed again, but this time, the story had changed. Judge rules in favor of housekeeper, calls love authentic. Public turns against the Harrington heiress aunt after failed lawsuit. Hashtag love is not a scandal began trending. Zara ran into Nia's arms. "You won." Nia smiled through tears. "We won, baby." Elijah stood beside them, eyes wet but proud. "Let's go home." That night, for the first time in months, the mansion was quiet, not from fear, but from peace. Nia sat on the back porch, wrapped in a blanket, the city lights twinkling below like constellations. Elijah joined her, 2 mugs of cocoa in hand. "You didn't just change her life," he said softly. "You changed mine." Nia chuckled. "You sure about that?" He nodded. "You reminded me what all this was for." They sat in silence, the kind that heals. Then, faintly from upstairs, Zara's voice echoed down the hall. "Good night, Mom." Nia froze. Tears filled her eyes. "You hear that?" she whispered. Elijah smiled. "Yeah. Sounds like truth." But miles away, in a dim office, Victoria wasn't finished. She watched the news replay, her expression unreadable. "She thinks this is over," she murmured, swirling her glass of wine. "Let's see how long that happiness lasts when the board comes for him." The Harrington mansion had never felt lighter. For weeks, laughter returned to its halls. The air smelled of pancakes and new beginnings. Nia, Elijah, and Zara built something stronger than reputation, something real. But peace, for the rich, never lasts long. One morning, Elijah walked into his office to find chaos waiting. His assistant stood pale, holding a file. "Sir, you need to see this." He scanned the papers, confusion flashing to anger. Board of Directors motion, immediate suspension of Elijah Harrington as CEO, pending personal misconduct investigation. "What is this?" he demanded. The assistant hesitated. "It's from your sister. She's rallied the board. Claims you've jeopardized the company's image." Elijah's jaw tightened. "She's weaponizing family." The assistant nodded grimly. "The vote's tomorrow." That night, Elijah sat at the piano, the same one Danielle used to play, hands motionless on the keys. Nia entered quietly, her presence soft but grounding. "She's coming for me," he said quietly. "Everything I built." Nia placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Then let her. Maybe what you built wasn't what you needed anymore." He looked up, exhausted. "If I lose the company, you won't lose your soul. That's what matters." He smiled weakly. "You always make it sound so simple." "It's not simple," she said. "It's just real." Across town, Victoria prepared her victory speech. In her penthouse, she rehearsed before a mirror, wearing the calm expression of a conqueror. "This isn't personal," she told herself. It's legacy. But in her reflection, her eyes betrayed her flickers of jealousy, loneliness, and something uglier, guilt. For years, she'd envied her brother's charm, his family, his daughter's love. Now she'd finally taken what she could power. The board meeting began at sunrise. A glass wall overlooked the city skyline. The long table gleamed with tension. Victoria sat at the head, Elijah at the other end, calm, collected, but cold inside. As acting vice chair, Victoria began smoothly, "I call this emergency session to order. Due to public controversy and reputational risk, we must consider leadership change." Murmurs filled the room. Elijah rose slowly. "Reputation. That's what this is about? Not performance? Not values?" Victoria's voice sharpened. "It's about responsibility. You turned a family tragedy into a media circus." He stared at her. "You mean I chose love over optics?" Her smile was tight. "You chose a housekeeper over your legacy." He leaned forward. "Legacy without love isn't legacy, it's ego." The board members exchanged uncertain glances. Victoria sensed control slipping. "You're emotionally compromised, Elijah." "Maybe," he said softly. "But at least I'm human." Suddenly, the glass doors swung open. Nia stepped in. Victoria's voice dripped disdain. "This is a private meeting." Nia met her gaze. "Not when it's about family." Elijah turned, startled. "Nia, what are you doing here?" She lifted a folder. "Fixing what you won't fight for." Inside were documents, neatly bound, every project Elijah had secretly funded under the company's charity division. Schools, hospitals, community programs in low-income neighborhoods. None of them profitable, but all of them life-changing. She placed the folder on the table. "You call him reckless," she said, looking around. "But he's the reason hundreds of kids have homes tonight. You call it bad business? I call it humanity." The board murmured, flipping through the pages. Victoria's expression cracked. "You had no right to." Nia cut her off. "You had no heart to." Elijah watched, speechless, as the room shifted. The same executives who'd looked at him with doubt now stared with quiet respect. A senior board member cleared his throat. "This company was founded on integrity. I see no grounds for removal." Another chimed in, agreed. "His leadership's unconventional, but it's visionary." Victoria's face went pale. "You can't." The gavel struck. "Motion denied," the chairman announced. "Mr. Harrington remains CEO." Applause broke out. Quiet at first, then stronger. Nia turned to leave, but Elijah caught her hand. "Don't ever fight my battles alone again." She smiled faintly. "Someone had to remind them who you are." Later that evening, the three of them stood on the balcony, the city glittering below. Zara twirled in her pajamas, holding a small photo frame, her mother on one side, Nia on the other. "Now I've got two moms," she said proudly. Nia laughed softly. "That's a lot of love for one heart." Elijah looked at her, something gentle in his eyes. "You gave her what money never could. You gave us both peace." She met his gaze, half smiling. "And you gave me a family." The wind lifted her scarf, the moonlight catching her dark skin in a soft glow. For the first time, Elijah realized she wasn't part of his story anymore. She was the story. A week later, Victoria resigned quietly. Her penthouse sat dark, empty of power, full of silence. She poured herself another glass of wine, watching an interview on TV, Elijah and Zara laughing beside Nia, who spoke humbly. "I didn't save anyone," Nia told the reporter. "We saved each other." The reporter smiled. "Do you believe love can rebuild even after betrayal?" Nia's eyes sparkled. "It's the only thing that can." Victoria turned off the TV, staring at her reflection. For the first time, her victory felt like defeat.